Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Grandstand Gurus, the number one sports podcast on the Explosion Network. I am one of your hosts. My name is Jack Kruse. I'm joined this week by Ashley Hobley.
Hey.
And for the very first time, special guest, friend of the network, Paul James. How are you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm good. How about you? Thanks for having me on.
No worries, mate. No worries at all. Thank you for joining us. Paul, if you don't know, is a dear friend of the network. You can find him on player2.net.au. He's host of The Insider, a great new show breaking down video game trailers and whatnot. So we'll go a little bit into that sort of towards the end when we pimp out all our stuff. But thanks for joining us, mate.
No worries. Like I said, thanks for having me on. It'll be good fun.
No, it's good. We're a bit short-staffed this week, so a few of our boys are in the wars and in the medical room and couldn't get up for the game. But if you like all my puns and metaphors, I don't know if that was much. It was terrible. That was terrible. Let's kick right into it, guys. What were our highlights from the weekend sport? Ashley, give it to me. What was your
Finally,
highlight
I can
week?
talk about it. State of Origin 3, Queensland, victorious.
Queenslander.
Yes. It was 22-6. Now that I think of it, I'm pretty sure that was the score. I didn't get this. Our last show, we made predictions. I got 3 right. First try scorer, I got correct. Man of the series, I got correct, and I got the result correct.
Well done, mate.
So, I'm a genius. I'm a god. I'm going to be betting on everything from now on.
Gutsy win from what I saw. Obviously with Thurston's out and a few of the other sort of things going against him.
100 plus games of experience and didn't have this series, so to pull out that victory, it was pretty impressive. Cameron Munster, who debuted at 5'8", has pretty much sealed up that jersey for the next decade, probably, on the back of that performance. And again, New South Wales just seemed to crumble when the series is on the line.
Well, they've just announced that the New South Wales team not allowed to walk dogs anymore.
Yep. Mitchell
hold
Pearce.
a lead. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you were making a Mitchell Pearce joke. Do you know about Mitchell Pearce?
Oh, no, I wasn't going to go down. No, I wasn't going to go. Yes, I know what you mean, but I'm not going to go down that route. No, it was, I was going to, no, not quite. But I'm happy for you, mate. I always, not that I follow Origin, but if I had to pick, it would be Queensland over New South, so good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Paulie, what about yourself, mate? What was your highlight from the weekend?
As it always is when Geelong plays Hawthorn, the victory. Look,
what a game.
The Geelong-Hawthorn rivalry's been stewing for, all too long, probably since I was born, actually, in 89. But realistically, in the lead-up to 2008, the grand final, not the grand final specifically, but since then. So I've been...
The Kennett curse.
It's my most
that.
anticipated game of
Kennett
every
curse.
year. And it was just good to see Isaac Smith miss again to win the game.
Oh, God.
Oh, my
Why did he
God.
play on?
Why did he play on? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
It was a great game. I mean, what a game.
It was a good game.
The theatre, the whole thing, Hodge getting that goal towards the end and them nearly snatching, nearly 2 weeks in a row, they're just snatching a victory from the jaws of defeat but falling agonisingly short by 3 seconds and then a half a second the week before. So
it was deeply satisfying.
Yeah, it was one of those games that had a bit of everything. It had individual brilliance, it had good team brilliance. It was just neck and neck all day. It was great to watch. We've had a lot of great games this
chaos
year.
For a while.
Oh my God, Dangerfield was up and down and up and down. It was crazy, but it's good. Footy can sometimes dish up some garbage, but that was one for the greatest hits for sure. Book. Yeah, for sure. My highlight from the weekend was it's sort of the last week has been the ongoing press conferences between Floyd Money Mayweather and notorious Conor McGregor. Just some great theatre. And the closer this fight gets, the more excited I am getting for it. And I hope the only thing going against this is that it could potentially not be a good fight. That is the only thing that could potentially ruin this, because the theatre of it...
Do you think it's going to be a good fight?
No, I don't. No, I think Conor's going to lose, which is a shame because I want him to win. But I really feel like this is one of those sort of events in history, in sport, I guess, that will live on potentially if it lives up to the hype. Because, that's one of the, Rumble in the Jungle and things like that. There's certain moments in sporting history that live on in infamy, and this is potentially one of them. If it lives up, if it's a good fight, because in 10 years, no one's going to remember Mayweather versus Pacquiao, because that fight was terrible. And this fight could potentially go that route, but this could potentially be one of the biggest moments in sporting history and live on. And it's one of those moments that you can sort of just say, I saw that. Like, I was alive for that. I saw when that happened. Like our grandparents can say they watched Rumble in the Jungle back in the day and those fights between Ali and Foreman and all that. So this is the hype is building. And Conor McGregor, if he's not one of the great promo guys, entertainers in sport ever, I'll eat my hat. And I don't wear hats, but
I'd buy one. And
he's clearly got a job after he's finished, like in entertainment or something. Just give him like a TV show or something where he can just...
he'd be lost. Yeah, he'd be lost to combat sport. If we lost him, if he went and did something else. I mean, he could. This is one of he could go and do the WWE if he wanted, because he's great on the mic. But I don't know whether he would have as much impact not being able to swear. But it's just one of those things. I'm really looking forward to the fight, and I really enjoyed all the press conferences from last week. So
that
suit, yeah. We can't swear in this podcast, but if you don't know what we're talking about, please go and check out Conor McGregor's suit that he wore in the I think it was the first press conference.
Yeah.
It was a pinstripe suit that had something etched in on it, but we won't go into. Yes, very much so. But fantastic, absolutely fantastic theatre. All right, let's kick straight into it, guys. Paul, as you are our guest for this week, we're gonna give you the honours. What have you brought for us?
All right, so I'm here to talk about Will Sutherland. He's it's come out in the course of the last week. This is a very promising AFL / potential cricket prodigy, and we've come across a few players like that in the past who've come down to that choice. Paddy McKenna, who was actually someone I knew personally, but he had to make that choice: AFL, footy, AFL or cricket. He chose AFL. Well, Will Sutherland's actually gone the other way. He's picked cricket in what was a really interesting, surprising, I think, outcome, because he was rated as a potential top 10 pick in the draft. But he also was an under 19s captain. He was selected to play in the Australia A team against Pakistan. Like, he really had every option available to him, and he's gone with the cricket selection, which I thought was really interesting given the modern trend.
Yeah. It was surprising, definitely. So,
well, he does have family connections. So James Sutherland's one of the heads of Cricket Australia. So maybe there was that
a little bit of pressure. A little bit of pressure.
I can get you in the national 11, son.
Yeah, well, he's got to sort out his pay first before he because James Sutherland is I think he's CEO of
Cricket Australia, yeah.
Of Cricket Australia.
He's in charge,
I believe.
Up there, yeah. That sort of
ballpark.
He's a power player.
Yes.
Yeah, he's definitely absolutely. So very interesting. I'm not. I was unsure of how it would go. He obviously is cricket's one of those ones, and I think the reason that a lot of young juniors, when they've got that choice, pick footy is because they've got a lot better chance of making it to the top level of footy than they do making it to the top level of cricket. Because if you think cricket, you want to be in the top, team 11. Of the country. There's 11 spots.
Yeah,
you pretty much got 11 spots. I guess if you get into the get a Cricket Australia,
even in the state teams, there's like 66 state team players.
Yeah,
I guess, each year.
Exactly right. So. Versus
there's 40 players on a list.
44 on a list, 18 teams, 792 spots.
Yeah, exactly right. So even
plus rookies and
even if you go just like best 22, he's got quite a big chance of making it. Especially as a sort of key forward type player, which is sort of what he was as a junior. He obviously he's obviously got a serious future in cricket if he's picked that path, because the more notable one that I can think of that had the option of picking footy or cricket and picked cricket was the last one I can really think of was Shane Warne. So he went on to have a pretty solid career. But
who?
yeah, who? Never heard of him.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I get
what type of player is he? Do we know?
So he's
is he a batsman or a bowler? Or?
The description I read: bowler? Big hitting, fast, medium, all rounder. So he's kind of got he can work to a niche in terms of the all rounder position, but if he really develops one or the other, there's a few more positions that could potentially open up for him.
Bit of a Mitchell Starc type.
And he's young. Like he's 17 at the moment, and he's captain of the under-19s team, which is promising. But there's still room for development there.
Oh, for sure.
And that's the type of player you want to see. I would imagine would be a big hit in like T20. Would be picking up that sort of a player around the world in any league that you wanted to play in. And they seem to be popping up everywhere now. Yeah. So
and that probably had an impact on it as well. The fact that there is a lot more avenue, I guess, probably the one big avenue that they don't have at the moment is actually playing for Australia. Hopefully that'll eventually get sorted. But I guess the big one is, you can go overseas, you can go and play, in the IPL, in the Sri Lankan League, in the Caribbean League, in the Big Bash. There's a lot out of there, a lot out there as far as professional cricket, as far as earning capacity, whereas AFL is AFL, and that's pretty much it. So it's an interesting one. What do you think his thought? I mean, what he's come out is said it's a passion thing. So he picked.
And it doesn't surprise me with the family involvement in the sport.
Connections, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the kid's obviously ridiculously talented to be considered a top 10 pick for the draft, as well as a potential future, top 11 player
Captain.
for the country. But certainly that, and I mentioned Paddy McKenna before. He was selected by GWS 3-4 years ago, something like that. Now times have changed quite a lot in that time. Like the proliferation of that short form game, the Big Bash, or just the 2020 format, means that there's a lot more money out there for players if that's what they want to pursue, where that wasn't really the case even 3 to 4 years ago. You had the IPL, but you still had to be amongst the very best and most notable in the world to get selected. Or Indian.
Yeah. Or Indian.
Because they'll pick the home talent a little bit more. But
I think they have to.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some sort of quota they have to hit. But,
but
at the same time now, because of all those competitions you mentioned a moment ago, Jack, there's so many more options now to make a dollar and make a viable living out of cricket than just make the national team as it once was.
Yeah,
it's probably not as hard on the body. Not to discredit the cricketers, but it's not a contact sport where you're getting hit every single week.
It's not. But those
probably be a little enticing.
I think as probably more like as a fast bowler, probably other than being a wicket keeper, it's probably the position that you get the most stress on your body. Those guys are always getting stress fractures in their feet, in their back, and then in their legs. The constant. High impact of coming into bowl over after over after
That's
over.
True.
It's not it's probably the hardest thing to do in in cricket is be a consistent fast bowler. So I think probably what played a big part in it was his probable his probably belief in himself as to what he thought he could be better at. Obviously, he's always been a great cricketer, but he never played TSC Cup football. He played for Vic Metro just recently, but he played all his footy just for Scotch College. In the junior levels, he never played any TSC Cup for Sandringham or anything like that. He did play well. And more so than what people sort of expected him to, because he didn't really have a preseason or anything like that in the Vic Metro. He played obviously for Vic Metro in the National Carnival, but I think he probably thought he has a better chance as a cricketer than he does as a than a footballer just based on that. So I always found it weird that he didn't play TAC Cup football, and it always to me was like a indication of which way he was going to go. Like I always thought he would choose cricket only because there always seemed to be a bit of.
He was holding back.
Yeah, exactly right. And I don't know how much impact his father had on that. I imagine I would hope that he let him make his own decision and didn't, try and persuade him. But I'm sure he would have given him the positives and the negatives of both sides, of having a pretty good knowledge of Cricket Australia.
He'd certainly be more informed than most other young teens who kind of had to make the same choice. It is the advantage of having your dad in the system like that.
No doubt. And who knows? I mean, I'd like to think there wasn't, but you never know. Maybe there was I'm not even going to touch that. So,
yeah.
I doubt it. It's too hard to crack unless you're Rod Marsh and the Marsh Boys. That's a whole different story.
I don't even think they were related in the end, because they're Jeff Marsh's kids. Anyway,
yeah,
it's stupid. The Marsh brothers, Mitch Marsh. Goddamn. Anyway, I mean, it's interesting. He'll be a loss to Aussie rules, but he'll be a gain for cricket. I guess, as far as a sports fan, no one really loses because we get a great potential, young fast bowler, potential all-rounder coming through the ranks who has good leadership qualities. He captained Scotch College to a flag. So in the under-19s cricket, I believe. So he's going to be great. Hopefully, if his body can stay fit, as always is the struggle for young fast bowlers. But obviously he'll be a loss for footy. He kicked 5 goals in 3 games, I think, something like that in the National Carnival. But he didn't, and with no preseason basically, and no TSC Cup football. So
what about the luxury though? Just to be able to choose like that. Any chance to share a bit of that talent around?
To have that much talent,
poor bugger.
It must be really hard.
Yeah, poor bugger. But it would have. I mean, if you think about it, for a young kid, a 17-year-old kid, to have to sort of make a decision like that, it's hard to say. I don't envy it, but it would be a hard thing to sort of grapple with.
It's a big call.
Yeah, exactly right. It's not like he can. I mean, you never know. I guess with the AFL these days, they always have mature age sort of players, but you sort of pick one, you've got to stick with it, don't you?
Basketballers and stuff come acroff.
Yeah, a lot of basketballers do. Yeah, I don't think you never really see many cricketers.
Carmichael Hunt debuted at 20-something, so...
Yeah, if that's what you want to call it. So did Israel Folau. Remember how that went.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's interesting to see the contrast to in that decision to women's sport, where they seem to be able to make the transition between sports at a later age. But that's, of course, because there's less money in it. But to see someone like Elise Perry playing for Australia in cricket and in soccer, or...
Yep.
Some other women have been transitioning between different sports.
A lot of the AFLW, play netball, or I think there was a couple of girls that were in the Olympics in different sports.
There's a fair few basketballs in there.
So I think it'll be interesting to see whether that that sort of crossover thins out as the standard of the AFLW continues to improve. Obviously this was the first year, and the standard of the games aren't. They're not top notch. Let's be real. Like they're great. It's great that it's happening, but they're not fantastic standards of football because the skills in that aren't there. It's quite a thin talent pool. But as it progresses, the skills will continually get better and better. It'll be interesting to see whether those crossover players continue to be there once that base skill level rises a bit. It'll be harder for a girl who's not putting her whole life into AFL. To sort of, is she going to be able to cope with it? So it'll be interesting to watch.
That transition will be tougher.
Yeah, exactly right. Spot on.
Actually, while we're on AFLW, can I just ask a question? What do you guys think of they're doing a State of Origin match they're planning it in the bye round at the end of the season? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a good way to use that week.
Yeah,
I'm not the biggest proponent of the fact they're having that bye week these days. As a Geelong fan who supports a team who can't seem to handle a bye.
What do you mean? That bye week was great last year. I don't know what you're talking about.
We limped over.
Certainly worked out for some teams.
I thought it was fantastic.
It didn't work so well for us. Yeah. We got over the line with Hawthorn.
No.
Not work so well again with another bye against Sydney. But if they're going to have the bye, I think that's a really smart way of filling that space. It's a shame that they're not bringing State of Origin back as a general rule. I would love to see that back.
Well, there's talk of the AFLX and all that kind of stuff, like the hybrid sort of sideshow game that they're talking about, the 2020 version of AFL, whether that sort of kicks off. Yeah, and they had that last year. They had the the EJ Whitten Legends game during bye week. So there's enough going on. They can make a bit more out of the under-18 championship, which they sort of
that would be good.
They neglect a little bit.
That would be smart.
Of the TSC Cup. But yeah, it'll be. Yeah, I mean, I think the State of Origin for the women's is good. It's good to have it in there. The game last year that they had in between the bye round, which was the Bulldogs Melbourne sort of game, which was like, I guess, the best of the best, was was entertaining and rated really well. So
I thought that was excellent.
Yeah, was good, and that was really good standard as well, because that was the best of the best for both teams, and obviously the standard the next year wasn't quite there because that talent pool was spread quite. All those really talented girls were spread across all the teams. But yeah, no, very good. Moving on, Ashley, what you've got something? I
wanted to talk about players playing through injury because of a certain Patrick Dangerfield this weekend. Whether you believe he was injured or not, he had a hell of a game, seemingly with a injured foot. I mean, he seemed to be a ball magnet at full forward. I mean, it was pretty crazy.
I was lapping it up as a fan.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Sitting at the
it was
ground.
It was one of the great performances as far as an individual act. It's hard,
Jack,
right?
do you think he was injured?
It's hard to sort of say. I've watched that footage from many different angles, many different times. I still can't even see where his foot made contact with Roughhead.
It's a weird sort of incident. I do agree with that. I still can't work it out either. But and in spite of what Kane Corn said,
Kane Corns is making a name for himself as someone who just makes stupid comments, and he's very quickly becoming the most disliked AFL commentator, if that's what you want to call him.
That says a lot because he sits on the same panel as Hutchie.
Yes, exactly.
But I mean,
and Damien Barrett.
I mean, Paddy hit the ground and immediately the hand was up, like he knew something was wrong. Turned out it wasn't as bad as what he thought, and probably because he's not been through an ACL or a major leg break or something like that. Like he wouldn't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
You only know it when you know it. It's you feel like you look at what happened to Michael Barlow earlier this year when he broke his leg in half the snapped it in half the second time. Like the first time he would look, it was a mess, but he wasn't quite sure what was going on. The second time this year, hand went up immediately. He knew he was in all sorts of trouble. Yeah,
like
when you live it, when you've been through it, it changes things a bit.
I'll never ever forget that Michael Barlow, that first one. Do you remember when he's he's running back with the flight of the ball. Reece Palmer came in underneath and hit him obviously in the leg, broke his leg. Do you remember what happened directly after it? Do you remember when he stood up?
Try and stand up. Yeah,
he stood up and he stood on it, and it bent. Oh god!
It just flopped all over the place. Yeah,
go on YouTube, listeners, and
you've got a
look up
solid stomach,
Michael. Yeah, if you're not too squeamish, Michael Barlow Fremantle leg break. It's one of the toughest acts I've ever seen on a football field. Guy gets his leg snapped in half and tries to stand up on it. Yeah,
see, that'll be one of those things that first time around where he'd not experienced it before. So
you're in shock a little bit. Yeah. I mean, look, I've no doubt he was hurt. The extent of the injury, who knows? He was definitely hobbled by it. He was sort of coming on and off the ground in the first quarter. You could tell coming back onto the ground when he cooled down a little bit in between quarters. He was definitely walking with a bit of a limp. But boy, oh boy, did he turn it on. What an act of individual.
What did he end up with? 5, 6?
5 goals, 6. If he had a kick straight, he could have had one of the great games of all time. It was... Yeah, I mean, you can't fault the game that he had under the circumstances, so you can only take a man at his word. So I watched it. I remember watching it and not knowing... And I remember, I couldn't work out. I'm like, what's he done? Is it his knee? Is it shin? Is it foot? I couldn't work out what actually had made contact. Was it a corky? I couldn't really tell. So, nevertheless, he had a fantastic game. He powered through. So you can't really take anything away from him. He'll probably still get 3 votes for it on one leg.
It was certainly a strange atmosphere on the day. Like, I was sitting in the crowd, and there was an audible gasp that just went around the ground as soon as that he threw that hand up. And you could just... And, like, I mean, I sit in the MCC members, but you could hear it all over the place. Like, there was just little murmurings. And, like, I'm starting to check Twitter to see what experts are saying, commentary teams, because it's, from such a high perspective where I was. I saw his hand go up, but couldn't work out much more than that. And I'm starting to see people going, knee, broken leg, ankle, all these sorts of things, and I'm starting to freak out as a Geelong supporter there. But it was a really strange thing. And then just the round of applause when he managed to trot on about 15 minutes later or whatever it was. Like, it was... You went through the full cycle
range
of emotions.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, so I've got a short list of a couple of file performances that I remember of players playing through injury. Obviously, the most recent one, Jonathan Thurston, State of Origin 2. About 20 minutes in, he went for a tackle on it was one of the New South Wales forwards, and he tore his shoulder ligament, it turns out, and then proceeded to play the next 60 minutes of State of Origin, the hardest game possibly in the world, and helped turn the tide, helped Queensland to get the victory, and plotted the winning conversion like 4 minutes before the end of the game. So that's a pretty insane turn of events, and it'll probably go down as one of the greatest tough efforts in State of Origin history, I think.
Yeah, no doubt.
He was pretty much playing with one arm, much to the disgrace of the Blues supporters and commentators and experts who were not happy that New South Wales didn't take advantage of that. So it's pretty impressive. The other one that springs to mind in my lifetime is Darren Lockyer in his last ever game, what turned out to be his last ever game for the Broncos. Like 10 minutes before the end of the game, he was tracked. A bomb had gone up and he was sort of had his eyes on the ball. His fullback came back and he got a knee to the face and he fractured his cheekbone. But being the legend that he was, he came back and he kicked the winning field goal in extra time. So pretty crazy. And then the other one that I've always heard about in rugby league is John Sattler. Have you heard about John Sattler?
No, I have not.
Sorry.
No. He was captain of South Sydney in the 1970 grand final. I apologise if I make any mistakes, but he got into a bit of a biff and he got punched in the face in like the 20th minute. And he got a fractured jaw and went on to play the rest of the game with a fractured jaw. So they won that match as well. So that was pretty impressive as well. That's always... I think it's an old school thing to sort of play through injury. It doesn't seem to be something as common nowadays, especially with concussion rules and everything. I mean, you look at Rory Sloane on the weekends. I mean, him trying to get back
they wouldn't have a bar of it.
The middle.
He certainly tried.
Doctors seem to play a bigger... Yeah, that's the most I've seen someone try and get back on the field when a concussion... They want to do a concussion test in a while.
So
yeah.
I've got a few here.
What about you guys?
I had a good think about this today. Probably the most recent one just happened last weekend. Robert Whittaker obviously fought through a bunged up knee copped a kick to the knee in the first round of his fight for the UFC middleweight interim title against Yoel Romero. I fought through that fight really well, lost the first 2 rounds and fought through on one leg to win the title. So that sort of was the first thing that popped into my mind, is just a guy gutsy as hell, fighting through, pain to win a championship basically. And, putting that pain at the back of your mind was the first thing that popped into my head. And then some other ones, there's some famous ones from history. The Kurt Schilling, as gamers, we all know Kurt Schilling from Big Games 38 Studios with the game Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, and that's sort of the way that studio went down. But Kurt Schilling for the Red Sox, I think he was playing. he basically had an ankle injury in I think they were down to how many is a best of 7 series for baseball?
Yeah.
I think they were
it is.
3 games down or something like that to none. And in like the second last game or something, it was either the last or the second last game. He fought through an ankle injury, and the bloody sock is the sort of the thing, like the legend that comes from that game, because by the end of that game, he fought through like an ankle injury where he could barely throw the game before. He had like surgery on it midweek, and by the end of the game, his sock was like covered. You could see shots of his ankle, and the sock was covered in blood. And they broke the curse of the Bambino to win the World Series that year. And I think I saw something that sock, his bloody socks, sold at auction for like $92,000 or something like that last year. So it's one of the great moments. Another one of my favorites, Tiger Woods 2008 US Open.
Yeah.
Just what an effort. It's hard enough to win a US Open, to fight through 4 grueling rounds of golf, 72 holes, but on one leg as well. And Rocco Mediate, he beat him in the playoff. It was revealed, so he just had, I think, arthroscopic surgery leading up to it, so he hadn't had much prep at all, Tiger. He came into it basically hobbling on one leg, and ended up winning, and revealed afterwards that he'd had 2 stress fractures in his tibia. He had to get his ACL, surgery on his ACL. It was just one of the great individual performances, fight through the pain, to win. I think it was his 14th major that he won. So that was an insane effort by Tiger. So he's not the player we used to know and love, but that was one of his great moments.
Yeah.
This one, I remember watching, and it's probably one of my favourite innings of cricket that I can remember. And I nearly went with the Justin Langer one back in the day when Justin Langer copped when he got ball to the head and came back on. But I went with in the Australia versus India series back a couple of years ago. Michael Clarke had been in and out of the team leading up to that series with back injuries and hamstring injuries, and it was the series, just before the series, there was an incident that I think we all remember. Phil Hughes was struck in the head in a Shield game at the SCG, struck in the head by a bouncer, and died a few days later. And obviously, Phil Hughes and Michael Clarke were quite close. Michael Clarke always refers to Phil Hughes as his little brother, and it was a really emotional time for Australian sport. And
just Australia in general,
and especially Australian cricket. And leading up to that series, it was a really big thing, and there was talk of cancelling the series, and obviously they postponed the first match, and they came out, and Clarke was batting. I think he was 60. He was sort of
he'd made 60s.
Yeah, and he hurt his back, and everyone knew sort of leading up to it that he was he had back issues, and he went off. And came back out and made a ton, and what an effort! Like, just the emotion of it, to do it for his mate, to fight through that, to not give up, to fight through pain, and to get there was just one of the Michael Clarke for me. People have a lot of criticism of him, but I still say that he's the best captain that Australia's ever had. Most attacking, most dynamic as far as game plan goes. People will say Taylor, people will say Border for their individual brilliance, but I felt as a tactician and a leader, I always felt Michael Clarke's the best, at least in my time. And that was just one of the great cricket innings that you'll ever see. And then the last one I've got on my list, you can probably speak to a little bit more, Paul. The famous... I think it was the 1989 Grand Final. Dermot Brereton famously shirt fronted in the opening bounce, cracked ribs, punctured lung, and all the rest. Throws up on the field.
I can't and won't speak to it that much because A, I don't want to talk about it, and B, I was only about 8 to 9 months old by the time that game rolled along, so I certainly don't have any memories of it. But
yeah, well,
And I'm kind of glad I don't in some respects. But it is ignoring the result, which was a travesty. It was an extraordinary effort in that particular circumstance. We've got a few stories from AFL of people who've performed similar sorts of things, or they've come into the game injured, played through. There was Nigel Lappin back in the day, played in a Brisbane grand final, broken rib.
Yeah, yep.
It's probably not the most extreme of injuries, but certainly one that's going to hamper you for the entire day.
Yeah,
especially in his position, was like a running midfielder.
Yeah, exactly. It's under duress all day. Maybe selfishly, like you both stolen a few of my ideas, so I found myself down to that one, and then one that's, I don't know, I'm trying not to make it a Geelong-centric thing here, but Harry Taylor taking on Nick Riewoldt in the 2009 grand final, had a broken hand all day and got it was an obscene number of spoils in the day, despite the fact that his hand was broken in a few different spots. Took a match-saving mark with a minute and a half left when St Kilda was surging to level the scores. There's a lot of those sort of moments, especially in grand finals, where players have played under an injury cloud or they've injured themselves during the game and they've just had to push through. And it's great. And I mean, you have to admire those people, regardless of the sport, for the sacrifices, I guess, they're making to their own body. Who knows what sort of consequences could befall them down the track. Yeah. And yet they'll just put themselves through those rigours for the sake of the team or the club or whatever it is.
How fit do you think someone needs to be playing? Because last year, I think they were talking about Gary Ablett. It seemed like a lot of people were complaining that he wasn't playing, that he should be playing through pain.
Ablett's a tricky one because he is a bit of a stickler. He's got a lot of issues with the pain-killing drugs that they give. He's got personal opposition to a few of those different sorts of things.
Okay.
So that the consequence of that being that he's typically not 100% in those scenarios, and he ends up spending a bit more time off than, say, someone else would if they'd suffered the same injury. But it's also like putting a percentage on it's a little bit hard because it depends on the player, depends on the role. Someone like Dangerfield, most players probably wouldn't have rolled back on the field like Dangerfield, but he had because of the way he plays, he had the ability to just, we'll just pop him at full forward, and despite the fact that he's on one leg, he'll be able to outmuscle his opponent, push them out of the way, and take a mark, which he proceeded to do. Yeah. So, there's a lot of players that don't have that sort of physique, and as a consequence, wouldn't be able to do what he did, and it's probably better to just keep him off for the rest of the game.
Yeah. And there's a lot of players that don't have the will for it either. Like, that's probably the biggest thing out of all of this is the will for, and Joel Selwood comes to mind as one of those players who will fight through an injury or pain and a head gash, and the amount of games I've seen where he's come back on with a bandage wrapped around his head, is
he's probably played more games with the bandage in his head than he hasn't.
And yet they continue to suggest that he ducks his head.
Yeah. Well, he does, but anyway. How
else do you explain it?
Exactly. How else do you reckon he gets all the head knocks? He's always bloody sticking his head down. The other one that just came to mind when you mentioned Lappin about player injured in a grand final, which I can't believe I forgot this one, but Dale Morris famously played the entire final series last year with a broken back, and had a very big hand. Say again?
Not an insignificant injury at all.
No, exactly. Yeah, just a little thing. Yeah, just a little niggle, broken back. But played.
You don't need that, do you?
Played the entire final series with a broken back, and was instrumental. Played one of the games of his life. Obviously that big tackle on Lance Franklin, the dying minutes that allowed Tom Boyd to kick that goal. That was a mighty effort as well. And I think it comes back to that thing I said before: is the will. Have you got the will? Have you got it in you? Have you got the want? And some players don't have it, and I think that'll be the knock. And one of the reasons I don't think Ablett's the greatest ever is I think that'll be the knock on him, is that he didn't fight through any pain. He was always not. I don't want to say he's soft, 'cause he's not soft, but he doesn't seem to have any pain threshold, and it's a hard thing to say because I guess these people, like, it's their bodies or whatever. They've got to look after themselves and their health and that, but. There seems to have been times over the journey where he has taken the option to not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Not put his body at risk.
Yeah. He's taken the sort of the option of I don't want to say the easy road,
He's
but
taking a safe
self-preservation, and obviously, and all that. So some will argue against that, and it's hard to say. Obviously, it's hard for him. He's not here to
defend himself.
Yeah. So, but Judd, played through a lot of injuries, and I still believe that he's he's the greatest player I've ever seen. So,
I mean,
I think
his shoulders were always in trouble because he was carrying the team up there. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he famously said to one of the West Coast players, I think it was the first game back, they made a comment about the about his strapping on his shoulders. He said, "Yeah, well, I need it. I've been carrying you blokes for the last 5 years." So yeah, I think it comes down to, obviously, you need to be tough to an extent, and you need to have a pain threshold, but you also need to have the will. So some blokes have got it, some blokes don't.
It's the same thing for all sports. It's injuries or not, it's between the ears. So if you, like you said, if you can just will yourself there, then you'll be able to find a way. It's what Dangerfield did on the weekend. It's what several sportsmen we've mentioned in the last few minutes have all done. Yeah. It's all between the ears.
Yeah, 100%. Great topic, Ash. Very good. And we did, and it's one of those things we were able to. We'll say you'll be able to tell your kids one day, Paul, that you watched the great Patrick Dangerfield kick 5 goals, 6 on one leg, and you'll be able to, he was there was blood coming out of his thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'll be able to ham it up and tell him how it was this amazing effort, and really he just had a little knock on his foot. Very good topic, Ash. Solid stuff. My topic. I want to talk about your sporting traditions. What are your what are your rituals? And we've touched on this before in a few episodes, but I want to nut down and know what are the things you do every year? What are the events that you get up for that what is it? What is it? And I'll sort of start you off, and this will be what I'm looking forward to this weekend as well. But every year, so the British Open is on, the Open Championship of Golf is on this weekend. And every year, I put in annual leave for the Monday after, and the last round starts Sunday night here and finishes in the wee hours of the Monday morning. And I stay up every year, and I watch the final round of the Open from start to finish until 5 in the morning. I sit up and I have 10 coffees and stay awake the whole night and watch the Open. And that's sort of I do it every year, and I have done for the last nearly 10 years. It's sort of I used to do it with my dad back in the day, and now I sort of carry on that tradition now. So that's something that I do every single year. I do the exact same thing every single year. And I have a couple of ones like that I do. I just have it's my tradition. It's my ritual. It's the thing that I do the same way every year. Boxing Day is the same. Boxing Day test is Boxing Day is my favorite day of the year because it's my day. It's my day to watch. And I always say to my partner, we'll do it. I'll go wherever you want on Christmas Day. We'll do whatever you want. We'll see whoever you want. We'll drive everywhere across the country. I don't care. I need to be at home on the couch at 10:30 to watch the first ball be bowled on Boxing Day. Don't care about Christmas Day or anything like that. As long as I'm home on Boxing Day to watch that first ball, I'm happy. I'm fine. And I have a couple other ones. But what are your guys? Paul, let's start with you. What are your traditions? Is there anything you get up for that you do, even little rituals, before you go to a game or anything like that, or before you play a game, or what's something that you do?
I mean, I had some little quirks when I was actually playing footy myself. Just works with the socks and the sorts of superstitious stuff that players have. Got to have them right up the proper, and everything's got to be nice and even and taped in the same points and all that sort of. Everything's got to be nice and symmetrical. That was a little bit weird. Boxing Day, we do share the same sort of thing. So it's kind of waned a little bit in recent years. Dad and I used to always watch it either on the couch or sometimes as MCC members we'd go along.
Rock along, yep.
And spend how many hours in the freezing cold at 5 a.m. until you can get yourself in. But so there'd be a couple of years where we go to that. And then, we spoke about Geelong and Hawthorn before. That's become a thing of mine for about the last 10 years where I make sure I get to that game wherever possible. and it's just before the game's even started, the hands are immediately through the hair. And I'm constantly being told that
sweaty palms,
ripping hair out.
Mum spaghetti.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't have a lot of those sorts of things these days. It's just circumstances in life that have kind of changed those a little bit. But like even Dad with the cricket, like he's worked overseas for the last 6 or 7 years now. So when he's in the country, if it all syncs up nicely, we try and go. Certainly the Ashes this year's on the cards. But there's a lot of those sort of little traditions that have kind of disappeared over the years. But I do look back really fondly on those.
Yeah. And what were some of your idiosyncrasies, OCD things you used to do when you played footy? I know a lot of people some guys, like I was listening to the footy on the weekend, and Lewis Young, the young fella who debuted for the Doggies, they were saying that, he has a ritual, he's superstitious, and he has a ritual where he has an omelette. Before every game, he eats an omelette before every game that he plays. Sort of a weird thing. So they were saying maybe the dietitian wouldn't be too happy with that. But there's a lot of things like that you hear, like players have to wear the same. They never wash their socks, or they wear the same pair of underwear for the games, or whatever it is. What were some of your OCD things that you did when you played?
My one was that socks thing that we were talking about a little while ago. So like they'd be hooked right up to the exact same. Everything's perfect. It's got to be just this far, short of the knee, blah blah. Taped up. All perfect in that regard, and then it was, and I don't know. You seem to hear it a lot from a lot of the AFL players. It seems to be spaghetti, like bolognese of some sort, the night before.
Yeah,
it was always
carb loading.
Yeah, it was always that, and not. I mean, I didn't have that sort of knowledge back there, all about the carb loading and that sort of stuff. It was just that over the years, for some reason, became a bit of a thing, and then all of a sudden, Saturday night before a game, or whatever, whenever before a game, spaghetti bowl.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Cool. Like it. Ash,
didn't have too many.
What about yourself?
No, I don't really have any traditions that I can think of. I mean, I'd cup every 4 years, like, just make sure, especially with Australia playing the last few years.
Yep.
But that's about it. Maybe I don't have as much regularity to go see live sports, that I don't have those sort of things like you have, where you've got your long list of things that you need to get done before you can watch the game. But yeah, so yeah, nothing springs to mind, unfortunately.
Yeah. Just on that, I'll go in this. If you don't watch the journals, and some of our listeners might not watch my journals on YouTube, but I'll go through my routine. I've never nutted it down to exactly what I do when I go to the footy. So I go to the footy every week, just about. Every single home game that's in Melbourne, I will go to, no matter what. Like, my partner knows. I make sure as soon as the fixture is released every year, put it in your diary. Don't book anything in on those days, because I'm unavailable when the footy's on. And she's 99% of the time she's fantastic about it. But so I will leave. So I generally I will get severe anxiety if I'm not at the game at least 2 hours before it starts. Like, I have to be at the game 2 hours before it starts. So I'll leave home.
Have you been caught in traffic yet?
Yes, once. I think it was round one. Yeah, it was round one this year. And the game was at the MCG, and it was on a Friday night, and I was coming in from work on the Friday night, and I was stuck. I was like, crash on the Monash, crash on the Peen Highway, stuck on Punt Road. I was stressed to the max.
So how early did you arrive in the end?
I got there probably 40 minutes before game time. And I was not too pleased. I go on my own, pretty much 100% of the time as well. So it's never really a problem getting a seat, but it's more just like, I just like to get in there and get in the zone. So I'll generally leave home, about 2.5 hours before game time. It takes me about half an hour to drive into the city and the Doggies generally play at Etihad Stadium. So I'll drive in, I park at the stadium because I just prefer that. I'm happy to pay the $30. It's easy. You drive straight under, you walk up the stair like you are in the stadium, and then when you want to get out, you're out. Like, you don't have to walk, you don't have to battle the crowds trying to get to the train station, trying to get to the car park on Spencer Street. No, none of that. Don't want a bar of it. So I get to the game, park under the stadium, get there about 2 hours before. Now, The thing with Etihad, and it's a lot better this year. So they used to do a thing where you drive in and then like when you go in, you pay for your ticket when you go into the stadium. Like the guy's standing there, you pay FPOS or give them cash or whatever. They give you a little thing, you go in and park. And then when you leave, they open the boom gates and you drive out. So it seems easy enough, right? For some reason, a couple of years back, they decided to change the system where you didn't pay when you went in. You got a ticket and you had to pay at the ticket machine and then put your ticket in the boom gate on the way out. So if you can think like 20,000 odd cars or whatever in a car park trying to get out after a game, and every single one of them's got to put their ticket into the thing, wait for the boom gates to get up. So it's like one car at a time. Oh, a stupid person drops their ticket on the floor. Oh, I'm putting it in the wrong way. Like, whatever. Oh, I forgot to pay. Reverse back. It's just a nightmare. So what I started doing was when I drove in, I would park. So what I used to do when it was just drive out is I would drive up and park like right near like halfway into the car park right near the elevator, entrance, and then like walk up the stairs into the stadium. But I got wise to that because when they started with the boom gates down, no more can I do that because it'll take me an hour and a half to get out of the stadium. So drive in, and I do this now every week. It's just an easy thing. You walk an extra couple of minutes, no problem. Drive in, pay for my ticket, like drive straight into the car park, and then do like a 3-point turn and reverse back into the car park directly facing the exit. So when I'm ready to go, I get in my car, start the car up, and I drive straight out the boom gate. I drive straight through. I don't need to worry about waiting for cars and stuff. You know what it's like getting out of the MCG car. You'd know, Paul.
It's a mess. Well,
trying to get out of the footy car parks.
I mean, to be fair, my distance from the city, I'll either public transport in. Like I'm a good 45, 50-minute drive out of town. I'll either catch a train in or park somewhere on Flinders and wander over for the MCG. But I do certainly understand the plight though.
Yeah, so the car parks are a nightmare, so I don't worry about that. So I reverse in, so I can get in. As soon as the game's over, I walk down, get in my car, go, bang, out. Easy, no muss, no fuss, drive home. So then I'm there 2 hours before, walk up into the stadium. I get my same seat. So I'm general admission member, so I don't have a reserved seat, but I might as well because I'm always sitting in the same seat. It's level 3, aisle 35, row G, seat 38.
So at the next Bulldogs home game, feel free to find Jack.
It's fine. I'll sit in seat 37. Someone comes and sits with me. It'd be nice. But it's cool because, and I've spoken about it before, I've got like my surrogate Bulldog family who, like the same people that do the same thing, they all sort of sit in the same place. So like I've sort of got to know each other now, like the old lady and the dude and the guy and his dad and his brother. So it's cool. Yeah. So that's sort of like my tradition. And then on the way home, if the Bulldogs have won, I treat myself to a packet of Twisties. That's like my reward for the win. Is on the way home, I'll stop at like a servo, I'll get myself a packet of Twisties.
All that real hard supporting you've been doing. There's your payoff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Putting in the work. I've been putting in the work. So got to make the most of it. But yeah, so those are my sporting traditions. I'm quite a bit of a weirdo with that kind of thing. With
what about the other thing that you do?
Which one's that?
You watch the replay.
Oh yes, that's right. So with the Twisties, so I'll come home after the game and I'll watch the replay. Because I sit on the opposite side. So I don't sit on the broadcast side. I sit on the opposite side. So I get to watch the game from a different angle. So yeah, I'll go home. And to be fair though, I don't watch the replay if we lose. So I only watch it if we won. Or if it's a really good game and we lose. But generally I'll go home and watch the replay straight after the game.
How many times?
Depending on the game, once, if not twice.
How many times have you watched the grand final now?
20 maybe.
Did you buy the DVD?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the DVD. Yeah, they replayed. They had, I think, for our bye week, they had the grand final, so I've got it recorded on my Foxtel as well. So I'll rewatch it. So I was actually going to watch it today. I was like, ooh, I could do with a little bit of like a pick me up. This could be something cool.
Look, that does sound like me with 07, 9, and 11. I would just on a dull day, I just especially after 07, like, oh, here we go, I'll pop this in. After 2011, it was, which one do I choose? Which was a nice problem to have.
Yeah, no doubt. I generally, if I'm having like a bad day or something, I'm feeling a bit blue, I might pull my phone out and just YouTube and like AFL 2016 Grand Final highlights and just watch the highlights. I'm like, yes, fantastic.
There used to be 2012 Tom Hawkins goal after siren against Hawthorn.
That was pretty good. That was good. Celebration, though. He's got weird celebrations sometimes. I was not a fan of the way he sort of like plonked along. Anyway, I just remember that.
He's just a big lumbering bloke. That's what he does all the time.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. There used to be this YouTube channel called Al's Highlights. It's basically just this Bulldog supporter who would record every single game. Like, he must have recorded on his computer or whatever, and then would record all of the audio from all the different radio commentaries and would upload, like, so like the AFL.com have, like, their highlights. And they're, like, 5 minutes long, each quarter's highlights or whatever. He would do, like, an extended version of that, so that they'd be, like, 20-minute videos, but they'd all be synced up to, like, so you could be like, all right, I want to listen to, like, the SEN version of the highlights, like Triple M, or, like, 3AW, or, K-Rock, or whatever, if you want to listen to the Channel 7 ones, and he would have, like, each game's, like 20 minutes. And it was only did it for Bulldogs games, which is fantastic. But with all the different radio commentaries, it's awesome. It was one of the great like YouTube channels ever. And he did this thing called Octo Call, which was basically like a big highlight from a game. So if you think like Tom Boyd goal in the grand final, he would have that played, but like that snippet of play with each of the 8 different radio calls and TV calls, and like just awesome. Like what an awesome like channel that was. I went to have a look at it the other day because like, oh yeah, I watched some of the replays and stuff. Taken down, it's gone. It's one of the worst things that ever happened.
I assume the AFL got to him.
Yeah, the AFL
licensing.
Yeah.
I assume you'd seen the Tom Boyd goal with the commentary from Brian Taylor. I'm gathering.
Yeah.
Good value, that one.
That was
If you've not seen that before, so go and YouTube that, people.
If you can find it.
That is fantastic. Yeah. So, very good, very good. Well, you all know what I'm looking forward to this week, and obviously the Open Championship is on. I will be staying up watching the last round on Sunday night. Paulie, what are you looking forward to?
Do you have a tip?
I don't. To be honest, Jordan Spieth is probably the guy in form. But the thing I love the most about the Open is just watching the best in the world squirm on those courses. That's just the hardest golf, so the wind and everything. And, it's not like some of the US majors where you hit it wide and you can chip back on and you can still get up and down. Like, doesn't take much to get like a triple bogey in an Open Championship. So I don't have a tip. The best thing about the Open is not knowing it can go either way. Last year's was amazing. Henrik Stenson and lefty Phil Mickelson in that last round was one of the great rounds of golf. Both of them played. The poor old lefty. He's come second. I think he's second for the amount of times coming second in majors,
which is even better.
Yeah, so he's not even first in that, but he played the round of his life, and it just so happened that Henrik Stenson played just a little bit better of a round. It was just one of the most amazing. But yeah, I love the Open. It's the best. It's my favourite championship of the year. I think it's the best golf played all year, so that's what I'm looking forward to. Paulie, what are you looking forward to for the weekend?
Cats and Crows. Does Dangerfield play? Does Rory Sloane play?
Big game.
Yeah. It is a big game. Friday night.
Like top of the table almost,
setting.
isn't it?
What was that, sorry?
It's almost top. Is it top of the table? Are they 1 and 2 at the moment?
First versus second, yeah.
Yeah.
Big
it's
game.
over there. And yeah, I think the big questions, going into it being does Dangerfield play? Does Rory Sloane play? I think they add this extra layer to the thing.
Rory Sloane, I don't think so.
Wouldn't have thought he'd play.
No.
But
I think...
And Dangerfield, they're still a bit iffy about.
You'd think...
Which is fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think that Dangerfield would be more of a loss than Sloane would be.
Yeah,
just considering recent form.
Sloane's not had a massive impact since about round 7 or 8 when teams started to clamp down on him tagging-wise. So.
Yeah, when North started that down in Tassie, he hadn't sort of had any impact on a game until we decided not to tag him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, look who came back.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, it'll be an interesting dynamic. I do think you're right. Dangerfield's more of a... it hurts us more than it hurts them. But I would hope that difference is offset by Scott Selwood coming back and Andrew Mackie coming back. So we'll see what happens in that regard.
Big ends, definitely. Ash, what about you?
Just sort of the NRL in general. This will be the first proper weekend without State of Origin, so all the best players are back who didn't get injured during that period. So it's the final home stretch. There's like 7 rounds left to make the final, so this is where it starts to get interesting.
Yeah, cool. Very good. Very good. So we're just gonna jump into a wrapper, but I'm just gonna put this out there for our dear listeners. Next week we have a very special guest coming onto the show. IWA so professional wrestling, IWA heavyweight champion Alex Titan is going to be on the show. So if you have any wrestling related questions, or just anything at all you want to ask Alex or any of the gurus, please send them through to gurus@explosionnetwork.com. Flick us an email, send us a tweet to @explosionpod, and we'll send those questions, or we'll ask those questions of Alex. Paul, would you like to pimp your stuff? Tell the people where they can find you.
So you can find me at player2.net.au. That is the website that I write for. We also have the YouTube channel, youtube.com/player2netau. No dots in there, which causes far more problems than it's worth. Paul James P2 on Twitter. And given that we're on a sporting-related podcast, and this will seem a little bit weird at first, but in August we are at the site having a 24-hour game stream marathon. But we're raising money for the Terry Campese Foundation. Terry Campese being a former NRL player.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, as a non-NRL person, I think that's right. But he's coming down to join us at different points as well, so it's going to be a big deal. I'm flying up to Canberra to help out, and it'll be a good little event.
I'm pretty sure Terry was rugby union.
Damn it.
His nephew was rugby league.
Union league, it's all the same.
Sorry, buddy.
Sorry, buddy.
Crush his soul every week.
Oh, we do. We do. Very good, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Grandstand Gurus. As you know, this is the #1 sports podcast on the Explosion Network. You can find all of our content over at www.explosionnetwork.com. We've got Platinum Explosion, the #1 PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias. We've got the original Pleasure Explosion podcast. We've got South of King's Landing, our Game of Thrones review show that will be available on YouTube, bit.ly/Explosion Network. We just filmed episode 2, reviewing episode 1 of season 7 of Game of Thrones. Very exciting stuff, so go over and check that out. You can find us over on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Explosion Network. We've got our community night, Mario Kart 8, the Invitational. So if you've been involved in that over the coming weeks, please come back and join us. If you haven't, please jump in for the first time. We'd love to get you along. All the details are over on our social medias and our website. Please check that out. You can find us all on Twitter. I am at Kruse_mate. Ashley is at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEYHOBLEY. There you go, Ash, did that one for you. Yeah. And as Paul told you, he is at Paul James P2. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Sorry,
once again, correction.
You're right. Terry Campese played NRL. David Campese played rugby union.
There you go. Hashtag Paul was right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us. Please like, subscribe, share us with your friends and with your mother. Until next time, plat, plat, keep on grandstanding.